call me Master Zen cause I'm a flicky bands.
You see the stupid title, bro. No time to get into it, man. Friday. What the hell?
I want you to imagine for a moment that you were abducted as a child. You were thrown into a human-sized container and lowered with someone else in the container next to you. Once you both hit bottom, both containers are raised rapidly. You see the person next to you take on a different appearance, but you, on the other hand, decompose painfully. You scream it hurts over and over as your flesh melts on your bones, and you become a puddle of skin and organs writhing in pain, but still alive. Now imagine if I told you that doesn't even come close to capturing the full image of the person responsible for this. There are a few candidates worthy of the title of most vile villain in anime and manga. Shout out to Mullet Man for giving the blessing for the video, but those candidates would be Shiro from Blade of the Immortal, Kakihara from Ichi the Killer, Seiko from Blood on the Tracks, and of course Griffith from Berserk.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. Me personally, bro, that title caught my attention. Like, bro, there's someone worse than this goofball? You gotta be kidding me.
I want to delve into this idea of vile, however, since it's an interesting thought on why we see characters like these as the most vile, instead of ones that from a numbers standpoint have done a lot more damage in their respective worlds.
He's just racist.
For example, someone like Frieza from Dragon Ball or any other mass-murdering maniac. Why do we see certain villains in a far more negative light than others, despite the damage they do being relatively less? A book I read called The Anatomy of Evil, written by Michael H. Stone, gives an interesting point on what causes us to have a visceral reaction to certain things. Very early on in the book, he gives an example of a case where a man under the influence of drugs shot 3 people. 2 lived and 1 died, but one of the survivors had been blinded in both eyes and had just gotten married last week. The jury showed a strong reaction to what happened to the blinded man, even more than the man who had actually been killed. Why is that? In the previous paragraph, the book says, quote, ironically, certain crimes amounting to less murder will be experienced as more clearly evil than murder itself, because of the suffering involved, coupled with our very human tendency to identify with the victim and to imagine how the crime would have affected us had we been the victim.
Damn, all this fucking reading, man.
I think this portion is very telling of how we perceive stories told to us, like if we were a jury judging these characters. Hence why characters that from a pure numbers view are more evil.
Bro, get this I don't even, bro, get this JoJo anime out of my face, bro. Scarred by this thing.
We don't really throw them up there when talking about vile. I seriously doubt any of us cringed physically when Planet Vegeta was being blown to smithereens. The names I listed earlier, on the other hand, are seen as some of the most disgusting and incomprehensibly evil individuals. I would like to talk about who I think could be the most vile villain in anime and manga, despite only being around for 10 chapters in the manga, or in anime form, 1 film. Bondrewd, the Sovereign of the Dawn from Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is an ongoing series that started in 2012 and suffers from hiatus, and so it seems to have a low chapter count at 67, but each chapter I think is very efficient in moving the story forward. I bring this up because despite only being around in present time for 9 to 10 chapters, technically starting at chapter 29, the story does a really good job of getting the most out of his peculiar personality and horrendous actions. Bondrewd is mentioned back in chapter 15 as one of the White Whistles, individuals known to be the best cave raiders, people who traverse the extremely dangerous layers of the abyss. The first White Whistle we meet is Ozen the Immovable, someone of supreme strength and a horrifyingly cold and blunt personality who explains the dangers of traversing the lower layers to Reg and Rico, the 2 primary characters of the story. She is stated to be unrivaled in physical strength amongst the White Whistles, and given what we know of her, it is safe to say her words carry weight and credibility. This is important for context because as she lists the dangers of the abyss and the White Whistles who are in the lower layers, she singles out Bondrewd. Even so, you should do your best not to stay in the 5th layer for long. Reg asks why that is, and Ozen responds so that you don't bump into any of the other White Whistles. The depth's 5th layer, the Sea of Corpses, is as deep as humans can go and return alive. I suppose some of them are there. Those who are down in the abyss right now are the Sovereign of Guidance, Wakuna the Chosen, the Sovereign of Mystery, Shraja the Mysterious, the Sovereign of Dawn, Bondrewd the Novel. Among them, Bondrewd in particular is an out-and-out scoundrel. He's not kind like I am, so you better be careful. Mind you, at this point, this is coming from the character that just beat Reg damn near within an inch of his life to prove a point. It's always an effective thing to have other characters speak on an antagonist and build up the reputation of that character, and then we see said antagonist confirm the fears through their actions. If the character is pompous and full of themselves, then it's no surprise if the villain sort of hypes themselves up, but when trying to build up a character that isn't going to be present for a bit, I really do think it's a simple but powerful method of adding weight to that character. Ozin, being the communicator of said information, isn't shown to be a dishonest individual. If anything, she can be faulted for being too honest. But in this context, she has seen the terrors of the abyss and has been affected by it, and is now warning these two who want to venture into its depth.
Bro, what the fuck is wrong with this hoodie, bro? Like, I'm trying to pay attention, man. There's a lot of information being said here. It's the problem of having new clothes. What the hell?
I didn't catch this at first, but since it's one of the only descriptions we get of bondrewd before meeting him, I looked into the definition of scoundrel since I believe that word was used intentionally, at least in translation. A dishonest and unscrupulous person, a rogue, and unscrupulous is defined as having or showing no moral principles, not honest or fair. In retrospect, scoundrel is without a doubt the perfect word to describe bondrewd, someone who you cannot let your guard down around, an untrustworthy individual who has no conscience, is unethical, immoral, or the more appropriate word would actually be amoral.
I would just call him a fuck nigga, man.
This is the portrait painted to us about bondrewd, and how foreign parents describe their children when they grow their hair out. I do have a bad habit when it comes to overdoing the intros of these videos. I don't know if there's something that can help with that, but I do know of something that can help with other bad habits you might have.
He better not fucking pop out with an ad, bro.
As well as help me justify the amount of time and money I put into the new channel aesthetic. A smooth alternative that is the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Fume is a
Get the fuck out of here with this shit. Hey, man, get your money, man. But we're gonna have to skip.
free magnetic time we get a look into bondrewd. Thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video.
Man, fuck them niggas. They ain't sponsor me.
Next time we get a look into bondrewd is through the perspective of Nanachi, the third primary character of the story who clearly has ties to bondrewd, a flashback scene where he praises her for the new cartridge and tells her to smile since the experiment was a success. So despite him, again, really only being around and active for 10 chapters, he's given a healthy amount of build-up and is directly responsible for the most infamous scene in the entire series, really one of the most unsettling and brutal scenes in anime as a whole. During this flashback scene, we see how Nanachi went from a normal girl to having the form she does now, as bondrewd took a bunch of children to use as experiments.
I'm not gonna lie, it's like, okay, I don't even know if I should continue to say what I wanted to say. It always gotta be kids, man. At the same time, it makes sense. Orphans? Some of them, nobody cares about them. So, hey, man, they are good candidates. And they don't have the willpower or the power to, like, for me say no, because you're my strong... You know what, bro? Before this video gets taken down, you know what I'm trying to say, man. But damn, bro, always gotta be kids.
Children who do not falter even at the prospect of setting foot inside the chasm. Please take a step forward. From there, we see what his base of operations looks like, and how Nanachi and Midi, another girl that was taken in by bondrewd, become close friends. Midi is taken to be experimented on, and this is where we overhear a conversation between bondrewd and one of his assistants, since Nanachi is trying to follow where Midi was taken. He is reprimanded for bringing children who will never be able to return, and that from a humanitarian perspective, this is just wrong. Bondrewd is quick to respond and says there's no need to worry since he's not making use of them as humans. Nanachi is also captured and placed in a large container next to Midi, and that's when we get to see bondrewd's motive. The 6 layers curse, death or loss of one's humanity. I'd sure like to do something about it. Those chambers you are in are capable of forcing the curse all to one side. Attempts that paired a person with something besides a fellow human didn't go well. However, Nanachi just happened to come join us. I regret having to use 2 adorable little beings such as yourselves, but
man, stop, man. This nigga pissing me the fuck up. Man, stop, bro. Little adorable. Bro, you weird, man. Stop, man.
Is you two.
Bro, he genuinely pissing me off talking about you little adorable. And then why you about to do this to them? Why?
You were such close friends. I'm sure this shall be a success. Midi says they were tricked, and bondrewd tells them that thanks to all of them, the darkness shall be driven out of this chasm. They weren't tricked. And so he lowers both of them, and as the containers are then raised, Nanachi transforms, and Midi, well...
Okay, I was about to like complain that, bro, show us the scene you're talking about, man. That is effed up. The sound and the visual is kind of disturbing me a little bit. Like, Man, I ain't trying to see a little ass nigga going. You feel me? Yeah.
Transforms in MIDI.
I ain't trying to hear a little nigga screaming in my ear. Pause.
Well,
is they even pause?
Made in Abyss is a series with some of the best world building ever mixed in with a disturbing presentation. It's like I would like to recommend this to the homies, but that ain't happening. And that ain't even getting into the stupid ass bonus pages the author puts in the manga, but
oh, he a lollipop dude, man. But this looks like a, I can't even say this looks like a good ass show or a anime, bro. If there's it looks like there's an anime. If there isn't, like these are just fan made animations. I'm not reading no fucking book, bit dog. I like my animations, man. I ain't got time to be focusing on the action and having to go down in even the subtitles and reading down, or like having to read still pictures, bro. Hey man, that's me, bro.
That's no here nor there. MIDI isn't even given the liberty of death, but instead is near impossible to kill and is now forced to live and suffer as this thing crawling around on the ground. With Nanachi now hoping Reg can put an end to her suffering, and in a heartbreaking scene when MIDI is finally put out of her misery, we see Bondrew see MIDI's life signal turn off and congratulates as well as thanks Nanachi for getting it done. For a brief moment we get a glimpse of the other aspect of Bondrew that makes him terrifying beyond just seeming to be 10 steps ahead and morally reprehensible for science. At this point in the story, Bondrew does seem to fall under the typical mad scientist, someone willing to do wrong for the greater good and the progress of humanity or himself, with no care for his subjects, but that would be a huge miss on what Bondrewd is as a whole and what makes him uniquely twisted. When the trio finally make it to the 5th layer, they encounter one of Bondrewd's umbral hands, a member of his cave raiding squad who tells them that the Sovereign of Dawn is awaiting their arrival. Upon arriving at the Edo front, Bondrewd's base for operations, they are greeted by a girl asking if they are Papa's guests. Nanachi warns Reg and Rico, however, to be very careful with what they say, to choose their words carefully and to provoke the others into talking, because information is power. A very appropriate saying given the situation, but also an apt description of Bondrewd. The conversation between the girl and the crew is interrupted when he finally enters the scene and presents himself alongside his umbral hands, Bondrewd in the flesh. He once again congratulates Nanachi for putting MIDI out of her misery, and when I first read this in the manga, I read it with a sarcastic tone, sort of instigating, but the film really adds clarity to Bondrewd's personality, especially his sincerity. Oddly enough, as shit will start hitting the fan a lot, Bondrewd doesn't show sadness, doesn't seem to show any anger or resentment, or even display the sadistic pleasure one would associate with this type of mad scientist character. But if not, his tone is constantly upbeat, joyful, caring, and at no point do we see him with a different tone behind closed doors to indicate that isn't how he genuinely is. Because up to this point, one could write off Bondrewd as the typical crazy science man again.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. That nigga, he not mentally insane. Is that the correct word? That's insane and sane. That's the English thing.
One who belittles those who do not understand his research and a goal for the greater good, but we are soon to see that Bondrewd can't be as easily boxed in like that. A little bit of time passes and Reg and Nanachi are nowhere to be found, and Prushka saves Rico from climbing up the forbidden steps on her own. Rico asks Prushka what kind of person Bondrewd is in her eyes. Prushka responds with, "My papa's the best. He's always thinking of me." This is such a strange thing to hear given how the first scene we see Bondrewd in for an extended period of time is him showing no issue and sacrificing a little girl, but at the same time he is capable of raising a child who sees him as the best father she could have.
What the fuck?
But the next scene gives us a good look into Bondrewd and the way he sees things. We see that Nanachi is with Bondrewd and shows surprise at him having a daughter. He states their blood relationship is weak, but she is his daughter. When questioned about that, he elaborates further. Is what they call family restricted merely to those related by blood? I do not believe that to be so. Having souls that love each other is what makes people family. Blood just helps in that regard. Love. It's a matter of love, Nanachi. I'll get back to this. Nanachi agrees to help Bondrewd again as long as Reg and Rico aren't harmed, and Bondrewd apologizes saying it's too late. And then we see Reg being brutally experimented on, as his arm is severed before being stopped by Nanachi.
What the Mind you, these are not like some little, like, fuzzball that looks like kids. These are actual kids.
Prushka and Rico. The scene where Reg gets experimented on is pretty bad in the manga, but it's even worse in the movie, although maybe not as bad.
Oh, it's a movie? What? Not okay.
As hearing Reg's name being said in the sub version. Although maybe not as bad as hearing Reg's name being said in the sub version.
Nigga.
The group escapes for a moment and springs a trap on Bondrewd, having him and his umbral hand surrounded by the deadliest monsters in the 5th layer. But then we get another description of Bondrewd when Reg asks how powerful he is. He is described as a monster. He was able to make an insane amount of progress, securing a base in the depths and getting rid of monsters that were fatal to explorers. But on the flip side, he used methods that were unheard of and without consulting others. And in a specific example, when plants and animals obstruct the way to securing a route, he burns them, without any regard for who or what might be in the area.
I don't know, because he said like he gon' it was to, I don't know, burn things, whatever he did. I don't want to see the scene worse because I don't know what's going on with YouTube, man. It might say, yo, bro, you feel me? Yeah. I'm gonna say like, shit, they were trying to for me go somewhere. They found a dead end. Hey man, the only way is to burn them niggas. Shit. But then he said like, but they didn't think about if there's like people there or something. I don't even know, man. I don't even know how to explain this. It sounds weird and fucked up. Then I'm saying, hey man, that's a good ass plan. Hold on. Let me just
who or what animals obstruct. He used methods that were unheard of and without consulting
others.
Listen
again, man.
And in a specific example, when plants and animals obstruct the way to
when plants and animals obstruct a way to securing a route, he burns them without any regard for who or what may be in the area. I thought we say when plants are in. I was thinking about he talking about plants. Like if plants are in, the plants were in their way. I'm like shit. Fuck it, burn them bitches. But doesn't make sense because we need trees, bro. You know what, bro? Let me just shut the fuck up, bro.
During a route, he burns them without any regard for who or what might be in the area. The surrounding environment gets annihilated. Further, Bondrewd is described as...
I'm not gonna lie, this is the reason why I don't like comics or manga or whatever. Like, bro, this goofball is the one that is talking, but his what he's saying is on this side. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just this style of it. Like, bro, these words supposed to be on like, I don't know, close to him, like somewhere here. Like, you see, okay, you can assume, okay, like, okay, these words are said by this guy, but then if you don't know, you might end up saying these words are said by these little niggas. I don't know, but it's just confusing, bro. It's like, make one slide of, I don't know, one slide of whatever in that scene, then another slide, instead of like adding a scene and another scene combined. I don't know, bro, how to explain this shit, man.
Who or
reading comic books, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Manga is kind of hard for me.
What might be in the area.
It'd be confusing.
The surrounding environment gets annihilated. Further, Bondrewd is described as a wanted criminal overseas, and that this person has encountered raiders touched by madness, but even Bondrewd is different from that. It was as if some strange, mysterious entity had donned a mask and was masquerading as a human. If there are indeed monsters in the netherworld, things like him would qualify. Reg believes he finally defeated Bondrewd. Prushka, watching it all go down and approach the dead body of her father, starts breaking down into tears. The umbral hand taking care of Prushka walks over and takes the helmet off the dead body and puts it on, revealing that he is in fact the real Bondrewd. More so that he is immortal, and all of the umbral hands are Bondrewd. Leaving with Prushka, and immediately after, we see him marking her body ready to perform an experiment on her. So which one is it? Because everyone that knows of Bondrewd describes him in the worst of ways. Meanwhile, Prushka describes him as a caring, loving father. One of these clearly seems to contradict the other, but the thing is they are both true. At least in Bondrewd's mind. To him, the inhumane experiment and practices aren't done with any ill will or malicious intent. He sees suffering as a necessary part of the process. What matters is.
Damn, big dog, he's smarter here. Can't he just think of like? It's like I'm okay now. It's like I'm trying to help him do his experiments. Like I don't know, bro. If this goofball explained this guy, he's literally, bro. I'm talking about this goofball. The person who created this video. He's saying he doesn't like just bro, fuck this English, man. Hold on.
To him, the inhumane experiment and practices aren't done with any ill will or malicious intent.
Whatever the fuck he just said right there. So why doesn't he like give them like some like antibiotics or I don't even know, like some painkillers or something, or like anesthetic? I think that's what they call it, anesthetic. Something that puts them to sleep. Then you can do the experiments. Like what?
He sees suffering as a necessary part of the process. What matters is progress. So even if he is sawing you in half while you are still awake, if that contributes to the goal of conquering the abyss,
bro, you could give them some anesthesia before. Like what?
Love. I might have used the word sadistic to describe bondrewd in the past. His actions can certainly be seen that way, but he does not derive pleasure from bringing others pain. He derives happiness from accomplishing the goal. Even if the progress isn't made by himself, he is glad. He sees it as a marvelous thing. Even if it's his own death that's being caused, he always remains with a constant politeness, and we never see otherwise. This isn't somebody who understands what they are doing wrong but allows the success to hush his guilt, because he has no guilt at all. He doesn't show remorse or sorrow for his actions, outside of apologizing to Nanachi for jumping the gun and experimenting on Reg. Bondrewd is, as I described earlier, seemingly completely amoral. Not a human being killing another with some sense of morality, but more so like an animal killing another for food. He is without any moral constraint or limitation, and this allows him to view his own actions of ones of love. There is a question, however. What about all of the other children we saw that were in Bondrewd's base? We are then shown a room full of cartridges we heard of earlier. Nanachi explains that the kids were experimented on and are turned into living, suffering, fleshy curse repellent and shoved into containers so that Bondrewd can explore the 6th layer of the abyss. A fight between Bondrewd and Reg breaks out again, and a huge explosion causes them to descend into the lower layer. We see a bunch of hollows crawling around, and Bondrewd begins naming them. Shako, Iten, Sumiko, Puel, they all have names, you see, as the hollows crawl onto Bondrewd. This is what's left of the children who were experimented on like Mitty. When one of the cartridges runs out and the fight continues, he says, My, Resima is finished. She was one of my kind-hearted masterpieces. She dreamed of becoming a princess, you know. Isn't that cute? So not only does he remember each of his victims by name, but also their hopes and dreams, further showing that he believes all that he is doing has been out of care. The fight continues, and all of the cartridges run out, giving Bondrewd a similar transformation to Nanachi, which he refers to as a blessing, because in his mind, a curse or a blessing might as well be the same thing. As the cartridges shoot out, he continues to name them one by one. Takiri, Terethia, Nopero. And the final cartridge shoots out, and Mania, Prushka's pet, runs out and licks the liquid spilling from the cartridge. Ah.
The fuck is that little nigga doing? What?
It was truly a marvelous adventure, was it not, Prushka? To really drive the heartbreak of this moment further,
I'm not gonna lie, bro. If that motherfucker survive, I'm smacking the hell out of that whatever that thing is, bro. Why are you licking unknown fluids? Like what?
we're given an extensive flashback into Bondrewd taking care of and raising Prushka, helping recover her mind from the harm of the abyss, giving her a name, and giving her mania, and doing all he can to make sure she is okay and happy. In the flashback, he seems like an outstanding father, to the point that when she believes he was killed, she mourns for him, and even in her current state as fleshy fuel, she wishes to overcome anything together, only wishing to go on adventures together one day. This is what really makes Bondrewd a unique type of evil, because oftentimes we hear that villains believe what they are doing is the right thing. That isn't always the case, but often for the morally gray antagonist it is so. Him using himself to further advance is an act of self-love. Him using someone else in the way he seems fit is an individual act of love regardless of the greater good. He is the so-called sovereign of the dawn, and so he has control over everything in his sight, and so he has no need to be held down by morality. As long as progress is being made, that's all that matters. Hell, even once he is defeated, he shows no qualms about it and simply states that now his aspiration is to see Reg, Rico, and Nanachi succeed. All in the name of progress. Prushka in her final moments then turns into a white whistle for Rico to use, which could be argued as part of bondrewd's plan all along. Considering that he always seemed to be a couple hundred steps ahead, I wouldn't put it past him. Still, one thing is to see your test subjects as nothing, and another is to derive a sick, twisted pleasure from their suffering, but it is an entirely different kind of twisted to see each of them as your beloved children, and that the one that you personally raised as your closest child, and yet you can still mutilate them and have them either live forever as a hollow, or live as fleshy fuel until they expire. It's incomprehensibly evil how someone could be capable of this. Now, is he worse than Griffith like I put in the thumbnail? It's debatable, but...
I don't know, man. I'm in confusion. No, I don't know who's much worse. It's like... I don't know. Maybe because, like... How do I put this? Berserk was the first anime I've ever watched in my life. I could say, like... It was like... I didn't expect it to be fucked up. Damn, shit, nigga, I grew up watching like normal anime, like, you feel me, the generic like family friendly anime, or like, I don't know, the anime everybody likes, like Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, now Jujutsu Kaisen, like these things. I didn't know there was like those type of animes like Berserk. Well, there probably is like adult anime, but I don't know. So the first time me seeing that boy doing his little thing, yeah, man, I just said, fuck it, this nigga the worst.
You clicked on the video and watched, so once again, all in the name of progress. Someone who at some point might have had some sense of morality, although we're never really told that, but was lost throughout the transferring of his soul from one body to another. But how could someone have such a detached view of the horrors he commits on others and love, be it someone he just met or his own daughter? Well, as bondrewd says, a prayer cannot be born from one who only knows of joy. And once again, thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video.
Man, fuck them niggas, man. Come and see a next video, bro.
Call me Master Zen, cause I'm a flick deep bands.